How's it going, everyone? Batting sixth here, back again after an extended break. And the Blue Jays have been busy, so we're not going to waste any more time, and we are going to talk about the moves and some things potentially that could be happening, news, rumors, everything Blue Jays as always. So if you guys are new, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. But I want to kind of backtrack and look at some tweets that had come out earlier in the month and kind of update the timeline a little bit. And I'll fill in the blanks for you guys as we go, because there's been a lot of players that the Blue Jays have been interested in, and a lot of guys that have obviously signed. We've seen the Ponce deal. We've obviously seen the Rogers deal, which we will talk about, and we'll talk about the bullpen in here. But what could be next? And I think a lot of people go to the free agents. They go to Tucker. They go to Bo. Bellinger, maybe Bregman, which we'll talk about. But I also want to bring up the trade market, because this was a tweet from December 7th and from Francis Romero, which again, I'm not saying this guy has any sources. I don't know. I'm not an agent or an insider. I'm just giving you guys kind of a tweet just to show what was being talked about. And the Phillies and Blue Jays are apparently two teams that have been checking in and showing interest in Ketel Marte. The reason why I'm showing you that is because now, just a couple weeks later, the Blue Jays don't seem to really be in those conversations anymore from reports that we've been getting. The latest reports is that it could potentially be the Yankees or the Rays. So I think right now you're getting a lot of different sources and a lot of different talk from different reporters from different cities, throwing teams out there and seeing what sticks. My feeling is that Ketel Marte is one of the best, second basemen or infielders in general in baseball. So any team out there that's competitive or that's looking for another player is obviously going to be checking in on Ketel Marte. Now, we've seen rumors about his no trade list and teams that he'd be willing to go to. Whether or not the Blue Jays are in or out is basically up to whoever's reporting it. I don't know what to believe these days, so I just kind of wanted to give the Ketel Marte update, because I do believe that it has a lot to do with if the Blue Jays get Bo Bichette. Because if they sign Kyle Tucker and go, well, it doesn't look like they're going to get Bo Bichette, maybe you enter the trade market because you can move some money the other way, and you're obviously bringing in money with Ketel Marte, and you're probably going to have to give up a lot to acquire somebody like him. Another tweet that I want to talk about here is Buster Only, again, regardless of what you think about him, saying the Toronto Blue Jays seem to be the most aggressive team to date that I've heard of when it comes to Kyle Tucker. Now, obviously, you can see in this tweet that it also talks about the Phillies potentially being there if they lose Schwarber. This is an older tweet because, again, I like to fill in the gaps. Schwarber obviously went back to the Phillies, so that would essentially take them out of the sweepstakes. I want to carefully say this, okay? I don't believe the Blue Jays are fully being used as leverage when it comes to Tucker, but again, throughout the entire offseason, all we've heard is the Blue Jays met with him already. They have the most money. They're willing to go to $400 million. There was a report out there. They're the only team that's willing to do it. If that was all the case, he would have already signed by now. I think there's been a lot of misinformation, and I'm not sure if the Blue Jays, in my personal opinion, again, no sources or anything like that, I just don't know how much the Blue Jays are towards the top if they're doing all the right things and apparently offering the most money, and he's still not signed. And that's why I want people to take everything with a grain of salt, because my belief, and again, opinion, I think the Blue Jays are definitely one of the top suitors for him, and they're one of the teams that could potentially land him, and I'm sure they're up there in the top 3 to 5 teams that he would like to go to from everything we've heard. But I think the Dodgers, and I know people are not going to like this, I think the Dodgers are probably offering him 3 years right now. If they go to a 4th year and that number shoots up to like 180 or even gets close to $200 million, I can't see how he doesn't sign with the Dodgers if that's truly the case. If they are willing to go to a fourth year, because I think their offer is more than likely a 3-year offer, around $150 million is what people have been talking about. If that fourth year comes up and it's like 180 to 190, something like that, if it touches 200, I can't see how he wouldn't go there, because if the Blue Jays or other teams are offering 7 years, but it's like 400 or 380 or whatever, he can still make all this money in 4 years and then go out and get another big contract in 4 years. And it's very possible that that's the case. So I don't really know. And I'm not trying to, throw cold water on everything that the Blue Jays could potentially be doing. But I want people to understand that we are not the only team that's interested in Kyle Tucker. I think it's like people saw the initial report and were like, oh, the Blue Jays are getting him. We need to take everything with a grain of salt. I do believe, and in my heart, I'm such a Jays fan that I'm like, yep, I want Tucker. He's going to choose us. But we have to be careful with the information that's being given out. And another piece of info that has come out as of yesterday was Jeff Passan saying, I don't think the Blue Jays are done. I think they're going to get a big bat, whether that's Kyle Tucker or Alex Bregman or Bo Bichette or maybe multiple of them. I want you to keyword here. I think. These are all just opinions. The industry is telling us that the Blue Jays have all this money and they have a special, dollar amount that they can spend on big name free agents. These are just opinions. Jeff Passan is a guy that has had a pretty decent reputation for the most part, and every writer has had their faults and said things that are not true and whatever. But we need to look at something like this and go, okay, at least people are hearing things that the Blue Jays could be in on multiple pieces. The Bregman one is interesting. If you lose Bo, maybe you also don't get Tucker. Who knows? It's very possible they could lose out on both. You're still going to go out there and try to acquire a decent name, I would think. And if Bregman is still out there, why wouldn't you just see what his number is? Elite defender at third base. That allows you to put Ernie Clement at second base because you'll have Jimenez at short, and you can put anybody you want in the outfield, plug and play with the guys that you have. I don't know who's going to be back next year. Barger likely is the guy that'll be in the outfield. Nathan Lucas, if he doesn't get traded, or whoever. You can do that. But to me, it seems like the Blue Jays are shooting for Tucker, and then if they miss out on him, are going to go to Bo and be like, look, let's just lock this down and we'll get you signed. Or if they feel like they're slipping out of the Tucker race and the money's getting too much, they'll just go for Bo, and that's it. I would love for them to get multiple guys, but again, it does depend on trades. If money's going out the door, if they can clear up some room. Like in a perfect world, you're trading Barrios and Santander and going, okay, there's extra money right there. We can just spend it on whoever. Again, I hope Santander bounces back. I hope Barrios bounces back. We'll see what happens there, because that's, a sub-4 ERA from Barrios and 25 to 30 home runs from Santander makes this team even better. They're already great. Imagine how good they are if those guys perform. But I'm just reading these reports because I do believe that we need to take everything with a grain of salt and understand that there is still a chance that we miss out on some of these guys and we don't end up with the big names. But the reports out there are still saying that we have a chance, and I'm very happy about that. Now, let's look at the bullpen. Tyler Rogers, great signing for the Blue Jays. I'm very happy about it. His arm angle is crazy. The numbers have been really good. I think we've been seeing the tweets and we've been seeing everybody talk about the fact that you could go from Trey Savage to a Tyler Rogers. You go from one angle to the next. You've got a guy that throws way over the top. You've got a guy that throws way close to the ground. It could screw people up. The speed difference, you've got, heat coming from Savage. You've got the split coming from him. Then you go to Rogers. It's a completely slower pitch selection, but the movement is still there. And you see when it comes to their bullpen, there is a lot of depth. People forget about Yimi Garcia. We'll have to see how he performs at age 35. I'm hoping that he comes back and throws heat. Jeff Hoffman, Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, They have Brandon Little there. I don't believe he's going to start with the big league squad. Nance was actually pretty good last year. Lauer was really good last year. They have Barrios there, but again, we'll have to see if Bieber is healthy. Barrios might start a couple games if he's still with the team. Then I want to look at the depth, because I think a lot of people are forgetting that we still have a lot of other players that are towards the minor league squad, and that could also come up. Ricky Tiedemann is going to be interesting. The top free agent pitcher that the Blue Jays have, the top prospect that the Blue Jays have in terms of pitching. We'll see what he's going to pitch like. He needs to start with the AAA squad for sure. Bowden Francis, we'll see if he can bounce back or if he's a trade candidate. Yariel Rodriguez, I know that the Blue Jays did DFA him, but he cleared, so he'll be competing for a spot if he stays with the team. And then you've also got to come here and look at Braden Fisher, who had a great season last year. Mason Fluharty, another lefty out of the pen. We'll see what Paxton Schultz does. There's a lot of options, and the Blue Jays are creating internal competition. But when you look at the core of the bullpen right now, you do have a lot of outs there. There's a lot of people that can throw a bunch of pitches. We'll see if Cody Ponce ends up staying in the rotation. He could be a long man guy as well. But it makes me think that there's probably going to be some movement there. But I'm also believing that the Blue Jays could be doing an elite move in the bullpen towards the deadline. I think a lot of people expect, Rogers is great, which I also agree with, but we need something else. Not exactly. The Blue Jays have a pretty solid bullpen now. They have options. They have depth. You can still go out there at the trade deadline and make those additions and feel happy that your team is getting even better towards the middle of the season, much like we did with Louis Varland. So I think people need to just relax when it comes to the bullpen. They've signed a bunch of pitching. There's going to be a lot of internal competition. There could be surprises. There could be disappointments. If the Blue Jays feel like they have to do more, they will. If they feel like they're good, they won't. Seems simple, but it really is just that. If they feel confident in this, they're going to be looking towards the bats, which is what I feel they're doing now. They're focusing on acquiring or re-signing one of the big bats out there. So let me know what you guys think. This video did go on a little bit longer than I wanted to. Hopefully you guys did enjoy Batting Six, the channel where we talk about the Blue Jays. I'm Andrew. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.